Was I wrong about the cheating scandal? If you don't know, I made a video talking about wheel mode, a scandal of sorts where a bunch of players were using a software to convince the game that their controller inputs were actually wheel inputs. This means a few things. When using wheel on Motorfest, your car turns quicker, drives better, is snappier, and you can even make adjustments mid-turn, which you could never do on controller. There are so many different benefits to using wheel on Motorfest than there is to not using wheel. But here's the thing, instead of using wheel, you're actually best off using a spoof software which makes your controller inputs act as wheels. Most of that discussion is in my other video. I'm here to talk about the response to that. First of all, the response from Ivory Tower, the crew. There is none. They haven't said a thing about it yet. We don't have any statement from Ivory Tower about whether they're gonna fix this entire issue, about the people who are able to break the physics, to be 10 times better than anyone else on controller, to dominate people on console, while console can do nothing about it. Ivory Tower hasn't addressed it. They've said absolutely nothing. But people in my comments did talk about it, and I was actually called out directly about it. The problem is that in the Crew 2, the handling physics were already so arcadey that wheel mode didn't cause a huge disparity versus regular controller inputs. However, in Motorfest, since the cars have much more weight to them and feel more grounded, the disparity between wheel mode and controller input is immensely noticeable. So that's a fair point. Wheel mode still was an issue. In fact, the first time I'd heard of wheel mode was in the Crew 2. When a bunch of the sweats in that game started using it, well before the Crew Motorfest was ever even out. But the thing with Crew 2's physics is you just go around a turn. You barely have to think about braking, you barely have to think about a racing line, you just turn at the right time. In this game, as you can see by my atrocious driving, you actually have to think about making turns in this game. You actually need a level of skill to race in this game. And that's what wheel mode completely jumps. Wheel mode makes it so you can instantaneously make it round any turn. It mitigates understeer, it allows mid-turn readjustment. It is overpowered. And it's a massive issue in Motorfest, mostly because, yes, the physics are different, but also it's also because a new audience is on the game, and they're finally figuring it out. The issue is, there's no option for it on PS5, so you are immediately at a disadvantage to someone with access to it. It is not a skill issue to not have access to something that someone else does. An easy solution is to simply add a wheel mode as an option. That way you can choose to use it, and then it will be a skill issue until you have learned how to use it. Livestreams chat's opinions on wheel mode were simply bad. I don't know, I don't use it and still win first place in Grand Race on controller, so they don't matter. I will say, you can tell in a lobby when someone's using wheel mode. No, Ivory Tower just has to properly recalibrate gamepad input, like already asked so many times in the Crew 2, where you just could not use drag spec for escapes with gamepad because no steering. I suppose people really just want better options when it comes to controller inputs. People want more flexibility. The option to have wheel mode, which I'm actually gonna go back on. I don't think there should be an option to switch on wheel mode. I'll explain in a minute. The leaderboard is the biggest thing that needs to be talked about. So I didn't mention this. There is a lot of people who have used wheel mode at this point. But the thing is not all of those people have shown they use wheel mode. You can't detect wheel mode. But there's so many people who have applied it to get their best runs. Now, I'm not blaming anyone specifically, but if they don't remove leaderboards or reset them, there will be unbeatable runs unless they add a wheel mode. The only option here to avoid leaderboard destruction, basically, is to add wheel mode. Because if you don't add it, well, you're gonna have to reset the leaderboards if you're gonna remove it. So, this is complete paraphrasing, but a YouTuber had the opinion. Now, this isn't the direct opinion. This is from someone saying that that was the opinion of the YouTuber. Anything that gives you an advantage that is not hacking or macros is fine. So that's a weird one. Because I think that's not really where the issue is. The issue is the accessibility to that advantage. Wheel is already an issue. Wheel, you can calibrate it to be the best, but that's just not as biased as it was in the Crew 2. But this time around, it's so cutthroat in a game with crossplay as well, that if you're on PC, you have this advantage for you. If every single person in the game could achieve macros, would it be unfair? No. Would it suck and go against game TOS and whatever and make the game boring? Yes. But it wouldn't be unfair. But the issue at the moment is an unfairity. Is that a word? Wheel players should be in their own lobby. Trust me, there is enough wheel players to fill a lobby. You say that, but what about when you get to Demolition Royale? There's barely enough players to fill out a regular lobby at Demo Royale half the time. And also, I think regardless, that would still be a detriment. Because there might be enough wheel players to fill a lobby and enough controller players to fill a lobby. But places like the Oceania servers, you can barely get into a lobby, period. Only America and Europe really have active lobbies. So although there might be able to be lobbies, that was clean as hell, by the way, although there may be able to be lobbies, it still wouldn't be enough to justify splitting those two, wheel players and controller players, via what the game is detecting you're playing. I'm a console player, so wheel mode is impossible for me. Even then, I can achieve platinum in the summit. I can even finish first place in a grand race without using any meta cars. But things cannot stay the way they are currently. If Ubisoft really wants to make the game fair for anyone, they should just add wheel mode in the game as an option, as it is the simplest way to make it fair. Rather than ban or a workaround, like Sid said himself, the cheating slash unfairness for wheel mode comes from the fact this game is crossplay, so part of the community are not able to access wheel mode even if they wanted to. So is it cheating? Currently, yes. If everyone were able to access it, then no. And there you go. The same take that I had when it came to, say, macros were available to everyone. I'd care about them a lot less. But at the end of the day, there's something I don't agree with on that comment anymore, even though that comment agreed with me. So, I don't think there should be a wheel mode option. Why? And what am I talking about? Well, I kind of got a whooping from someone big in the Crew community, GeForce. He said this: Sid, I'ma be real with you. Your video on wheel mode is exactly what I was afraid of when I saw people first start complaining about it. Ending off with add wheel mode is a problem, because it only solves half of the problem. Goliath's video was at least open-ended on what the solution was, but adding wheel mode just isn't the best option, and we should truly demand fairness if we get anything at all. Half-arsing a solution will make things worse in the long run. So, I had a back and forth talk with GeForce about that comment. What did he mean? What was the solution then? And what should we do instead? And his take was, controller players just can't really handle wheel mode. There's been so many people who have used wheel mode, the current exploit version, and are just not able to use it, are all over the place, are out of control. And a binary wheel mode is where the issue is. A binary wheel mode is not the fix, on or off. That shouldn't be a thing. And what I realized is it's actually very close to something the core Crew community have been asking for years. A sensitivity slider for controller. Not a do you want unlimited sensitivity immediately all the time. A how sensitive do you want it? Maybe you could go up one tick at a time and slowly learn wheel mode. The big issue with any of it at the moment is that it just wouldn't be good for controller players. Is all we would see is people just out of control, more than they are now, clearly. So just adding a wheel mode, like GeForce said, and I agree with him now, would be bad. What we need is a sensitivity slider, where one end is wheel sensitivity, and the other end is controller sensitivity. So players can actually gauge what is best, and we're not just nuking the whole credibility of the game in one fell swoop. Because the other options are instantaneously overnight, say they add wheel mode, even though they've still not addressed it, say they add wheel mode overnight, everyone's going to be using it, and Grand Race lobbies are going to look like chaos. More chaos than already. Instead, if people are able to use halfway through, get a little bit close, get control, get the advantages of wheel mode without the disadvantages of it being so intense. That right there is what I think is actually the fix for wheel mode. Do you agree or disagree? Do you think wheel mode actually isn't an issue? Do you think that it should actually just be a binary? It should just be wheel mode or no wheel mode? How much would you agree on, if anything? What we need is the delay to be less ridiculous by default. Yeah. Also a slider for that. Ivory Tower, a responsiveness slider, please. Even though I feel like it's dumb to have your car not responsive, but yes, absolutely. The way the wheels just take a decade to turn is a massive detriment to non-wheel users. Shout out to GeForce, again another shout out to Goliath and Simji for talking about this well before I did. Thank you to popular members, especially thanks to famous members, and an insane thank you to star members Danimal, Manimal, Grim Pepper, and Extreme Speed, and an insane top of the top thank you to Icon members HK and Extreme Speed again. Hashtag fair play TCM, I guess, in a bit.